This video, I'm going to give you the executive insights into getting a job, which will reduce your anxiety, show you the parts of the job application that really matter, and get you hired at your dream job 10 times faster. Over my 10 years as a GM at Whole Foods Amazon, I saw many people applying for a job and know exactly what good results look like when searching for a job. So we're going to break down the 3 steps of applying for a job, and I'll show you exactly what hiring managers value, so you can worry less and start improving what really matters. Let's get into it. First, let's acknowledge the elephant. Applying for a job sucks. It hits all our core issues. Beliefs about ourselves and our self-worth, the things we need and want, from our imagined future to money to pay for food in our home. It affects our emotions, leaving us vulnerable and unsafe, and it can mess with our expectations, leaving us feeling stuck. So it's definitely worth it to figure out what you might be doing wrong and fix it. Step 1 to getting a job is applying. It seems simple, but this is actually the hardest part of the process. You send off your resumes, but get almost no feedback, so it's hard to know if you're doing something wrong. All you know is if your resume can't get an employer to call you back, it is going to be impossible to get a job. What you want to know is A, if your resume is effective so you can stop rewriting it, and B, what you can do to improve the odds of getting an interview. So is your resume effective? For the average candidate, hearing back from 10% of the places they apply to is a good ratio. That means for every 10 jobs you apply to, you want to get at least 1 call back. If you're currently getting this, your resume is okay and is likely not your biggest obstacle to getting a job. If you're hearing back under 5% of the time, meaning you send out 20 resumes and you get 0 or 1 calls, you need to stop sending out your resume and fix it. So how do you improve your application, get the interview, and stop feeling stuck? 1, send more resumes. Now you know the average to expect. It is just a numbers game. If you're sending out 10 and getting 1 callback and you want more, just send out more resumes. 2, fix your resume. A small increase in callbacks, like say getting 1 callback for every 5 resumes you send, will help you so much towards getting a job. Also, if you already have a resume getting above average results, you can test out small changes, send out 2 versions of your resume and see what works better, and just keep doing this process over and over again until you have the best resume possible. I won't go over all the way to do this in this video. There are lots of resources out there in how to improve your resume. However, if this is you, you can book a free discovery call with me in the link below, and we can go over ways to improve your resume. 3, drop off your application in person if possible. I can tell you as a hiring manager, if you have a lot of applicants, it's all about who stands out. You hear stories about jobs getting over 100 applications. That's actually a lot of work for the person doing the hiring. So if you go in person, drop off the resume and introduce yourself, you're doing them a huge favor and they're going to remember you. When it's time to narrow down the candidates, you know you're going to stand out. You can use LinkedIn as well to make the introduction. It just doesn't work as well. And number 4, the biggest hack is being referred by someone who already works in the company. This is almost a 100% guaranteed method of getting the interview, and it almost definitely ensures you're going to get the job. The second step to getting a job, if you've had a successful application, is receiving a screening call. This is the easiest part of the process. This is usually a call from HR or a junior manager narrowing down the potential candidates for interview on behalf of the hiring manager. You need to get past this screening call if you want to speak to the manager who is going to be interviewing you and deciding if you're going to be hired. So what can you do to pass this screening call? The good news is the company likes your resume and believes you have the skills and experience for the job. This is their first real glimpse at your personality. The worst thing you can do is show impatience or ingratitude because you're not speaking to the hiring manager. I hear some version of this frustration from many of the clients I have struggling to get a job. The process seems so long. Why can't they just give me the job? I know I can do it. This mindset was a huge mistake and was costing my clients opportunities until I pointed it out. Companies want patient and collaborative people. People that don't mind explaining themselves. When you get the job, you're definitely going to need to demonstrate those traits with colleagues and clients. So part of the screening process is testing to see if you have those traits. As a manager, I would purposely have someone who doesn't know all the technical skills around your role, but is the perfect example of the personality type that we value making these screening calls. If they don't get a good impression of you, then I know you won't work out. So how often should a screening call lead to an interview? Basically, expect one interview for every 2 screening calls you receive. More specifically, if over 60% of the screening calls you get lead to an interview, you're above average and likely don't have to worry about this step in the process. If you're finding that under 40% of the calls you get is leading to an interview, or somewhere in the neighborhood of 1 in 3, you're likely being either impatient or ungrateful on the call and need to fix this. In fact, if you follow my tips and begin to treat screening calls with patience and gratitude, you will move on to the interview 100% of the time. The third and final step to getting a job is the interview, or perhaps multiple interviews. At this point, congratulate yourself for getting this far, because many people don't. Interviews are very valuable for both you and your potential employer. If you get an interview for every 2 screening calls and you have to send out 10 resumes to get a screening call, that means you likely have to send out 20 resumes to get this one interview. The interview is the second hardest part of the process. It can be hard staying emotionally neutral, being this close to your goal, and rejection is going to hit harder. However, although interviews are challenging, you should view them as your best opportunity for getting the job. It is the part of the process that you get to exercise the most control over. The more prepared you are, the better the interview is going to go. So A, what should you expect from the interview? And B, how can you improve your chances of getting the job after making it so far? On average, people are getting job offers from 20% of the interviews they attend. If you are finding yourself under 10%, then you desperately need to work on your interview skills. The people I work with are typically successful 50 to 75% of the time, meaning it takes them no more than 2 job interviews to get a job. So how did they improve their odds? The most impactful lesson I teach to dramatically improve people's interview success is to reframe how they view job interviews. If you're struggling with interviews like the hundreds of people I've coached, you're likely viewing interviews as a conversation. It isn't. An interview is not a conversation, it is a presentation. You're presenting yourself as the most valuable candidate for the role. In other words, if you have an amazing story from a past job where you solved a problem and saved that company thousands of dollars, it is your job to tell that story in the interview, no matter what questions are being asked. That may sound awkward. You might be thinking, how do I know they're going to ask something that's relevant to this story? But I can tell you right now, 5 of the questions you're going to be asked in your interview. In every job interview, you're going to be asked about several personality traits: your work ethic, your collaborative skills, how you stay positive, your resilience, and what part of the work you're most enthusiastic about. If you know that, you can already have those stories written. With those 5 stories, you have about 80% of your interview already aced. With a little research into the company's mission and values, you can likely guess several of the other questions you'll be asked and have answers ready. That means you'll already have a full presentation ready about why you're so valuable when you're in the interview. So to go back to the elephant, why does applying for a job suck? If most people are getting a job after interviewing at 5 places, and they get an interview from half of their screening calls, and they send out 10 resumes to get 1 screening call, how many applications do the average candidate have to send out at a minimum to get a job? At least 100. That number seems like a lot, and it is no wonder people are getting burnt out just applying for jobs. However, if you just follow the 3 steps I laid out and improve each step, you should start getting interviews with just 5 resumes and job offers 50% of the time. So you can go from sending 100 applications to sending just 10 or less. But if you're still unsure about applying for your next job, or would like some guidance with your next job application, then you can book a free 15-minute call with me in the description, and I can help you make it happen.